What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and this time it's for my current Dragonmaid list. So there were a few requests to show off my current list for the current format, I guess. This is pretty much an end of format list, given that we have a ban list coming up in a few months. Sorry. There's always a ban list in a few months. Coming up in a few days at this point, maybe even like a week or two. Yeah, so this is pretty much the list that I've come to as the list that I'm going to round out the format with. I will be playing in, I think I've finally decided, I'm going to be playing in the Remote Duel YCS, so you'll probably catch me playing Dragonmaid at that. I'll be in the European one. Apparently, Australia and New Zealand can enter into that one now because we're not getting one for ourselves, so I'm going to be playing that. Going to be staying up till like 9 o'clock at night to do that. Like, that's going to be like the start time for me is like 9 PM, so it's going to be a tough night to power through, but we'll be playing this there, and showing off our nice Starlight Rare Chamber Dragonmaids that we decided to pick up. Please hit subscribe though. Subscribe to the channel because I need to recover the massive financial crisis that I've incurred from purchasing these Chamber Dragonmaids. But let's get on into the profile. Before we do get started on this one, bit of a special announcement. We have partnered up with yourplaymat.com now. They are doing our sleeves for the channel. We do have some nice sleeves here for the NolanTCG ones. There'll be an affiliate link in the description down below. Jump down there, gets you a bit of a discount, also does support the channel as well, helps me recover from the massive, devastating cost of my Starlight Chamber Dragonmaids. But yeah, they're quite nice sleeves. Overall, like, didn't have any, like, major issues with them when they came in. I think I had, like, one sleeve had a mark on it, so, like, probably couldn't be used, in, like, a main deck, definitely, because it can be considered marked. But overall, the rest of the sleeves, they're all great. Surprisingly good. I was, like, worried there'd be, like, the shiny gloss back, but they're, like, the textured back. So they shuffle, like, decently well, especially when I'm playing, like, extra builds and stuff like that, which I play quite a lot of now. These were very good. I was worried I'd have to, like, do a double sleeve over the top, but maybe I might still do that to protect the art, just to make sure that it all stays nice and fresh. But, yeah, quite happy. So, yeah, affiliate link in the description down below. Do check them out down there. Of course, gives back to the channel. You get a bit of a discount. I said it before. But let's get on into the profile. Okay, so starting us off for the main deck, we of course have our playset of Chamber Dragonmaid, the normal summon that makes the deck go around. Of course, you can special summon as well. You do have lots of ways to special summon it in this deck, but typically this is what you want to be summoning every turn, getting your searches going, and just kind of going from there. This does switch into any, like, Dragonmaid big monster, as long as it was legally summoned, so it can't typically summon your house back. But you can transition for this into a shoe. Keep that in mind. It's really a big play that you can get where your opponent commits a lot of resources to adding your shoe. And if you can just get a Chamber Dragonmaid back at the start of battle phase, like, that shoe's coming back. So keep that in mind when you're playing the deck, that this can switch into that. After that, we have the second best Dragonmaid. It's 3 copies of Parlor. Of course, does get you those Foolishes. It can send the Tidying on your turn if you're going first and this is your summon. You can get a Heretic Seal off that. Of course, with the other cards, though, it is full combo. So if you open this plus War Legacy Guard Dragon, that is your entire combo going up. You'll end on, like, the Heretic Seals, the Fusion, and then, like, whatever else you've drawn will fill out the rest of that. Next off, I do only play 1 copy of Chamber Dragonmaid. I still haven't changed this, not bumping it up. I might, if we lose LP, consider bumping it up, but it doesn't really get you anywhere by itself, which is the reason why I play 1 of it. You can consider playing it more for more names. Of course, though, I've had to super optimize this list to being, like, exactly what I need to play it, because everyone at my locals knows how the deck works. So there's not going to be a surprise when I sit down across from someone and go like, oh, this does this. If you are playing at a locals where they don't necessarily know how to play against Dragonmaid, you can consider playing more of it because you won't get punished as much for playing something like Kitchen. Of course, that will mean you can change other ratios further in the deck, but we'll get to that when we get to it. After that, we do have 1 copy of Nurse as well, so I do play like a 3-3-1-1 ratio. There is not going to be any Laundry in this deck because Laundry is complete trash. Doesn't matter if it's an extra name, it's garbage. Nurse is what we're typically going to be summoning off our Heretic Seal in Game 1. This is going to be summoning back off Heretic Seal, then getting us our resources back from Graves so we can snowball an OTK on turn 3. Then we have our big dragons, so we play 1 of each. No water though, because if water was a quick effect it'd be broken, but it's not, so we don't really need it. We have 1 Lorpa. It targets, so it can't turn off Dragoon, but it does stop cards from activating. Earns to summon from hand. And Tinnick, I play Tinnick because it can out-Dragoon. Also, the Shadol player at our locals really knows how to, like, play against this deck, so you have to play 3 dragons, like, 3 big dragons. You can't cut it down any further than this. Even this gets a little bit too close for comfort sometimes. After that, We have the small black metal dragon package. You don't need to play more than one black metal dragon. It's not a good normal summon at all. You want to be normal summoning normal Dragonmaids. You don't want to be normal summoning this. You're typically going to summon this off your LP, and then when you link it off, you're going to get the darkness metal and use that as a fusion material. Theoretically, I've been working it out that if you start with Chamber Dragonmaid, you don't need to go down this line. That does help you out if you get drolled as well. So if you go Chamber with the World Legacy Guard Dragon, you just summon your Parla instead, and then Parla can dump the big dragon, and then you can bounce it back with your... summon it back with your Pisty, then you can bounce it back anyway, or just use it as a fusion material straight from field. It does get you a bit better off in the grind game in that state, so I have been working on the fact that this can be completely cut, but if you do open Parla as your combo starter, that of course isn't going to work, so you do need to go with like a black metal into Red Eyes Darkness Metal kind of line of play. Of course, I will be trying to work on that as we go through the future, but at the moment, that's kind of where we're stuck. That way does play around draw a lot better, though, which is the reason why I originally didn't like this package, but it is in the deck now. After that, we are playing 2 copies of Nocto. It is just a free extender, essentially, for the deck that will get you into your Hieratic Seal. Sometimes, though, I do have it in hand when I don't need it, and that kind of results in me burning resources I don't need to. That is probably like my one weakness with this deck, is if I do open full combo in a Noctovision Dragon, I find myself wanting to use the Noctovision Dragon to get the draw, and that can sometimes just be a little bit greedy, where I can just hold the Nocto for an extender, possibly. After that, though, 3 copies of Nibiru is our hand trap of choice that we're playing. We are playing droplets as well, so that is essentially 6 cards of variance that you can change up to whatever you'd like to change it up to. I'm just playing Nibiru, though, because my biggest weakness at locals is playing against Salamangreat, probably. I can grind out with most other decks, but Salamangrate's kind of tough if I lose the game 1, if I lose the die roll. So I want to have the Nibirus in the main deck to play around that. Then we get into our spells. The card that is the second card that makes full combo, World Legacy Guard Dragon. You're going to want to open this with your Chamber or your Parla, and that's full combo. You'll end on like your big board. After that, 2 copies of Dragonmaid's Hospitality. 3 isn't necessary, although like in a deep grind game it can come up. If you have to burn these to summon Chambers, it can be a little bit kind of bricky, because then you're not going to be getting the foolish and the full resource out of everything you're doing. But yeah, 2 copies of Dragonmaid's Hospitality, all that's really needed, as I said before. After that, this can be cut to 1 if you're playing at a locals that doesn't really know how to play against the deck. I just have a lot of people that know how to counter the deck at my locals, so I do need to play 2 changeover, because this will get crowed by crow-like effects 9 times out of 10. So yeah, I do need to play the 2 copies of changeover. Also, like Macabra's banishing this out can be a bit of like a tough time if you're not playing 2 copies. After that, 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This is a Pros build, so you're playing the 3 Prosperity. It's just kind of straightforward. You do want to like dig into as much as your deck as possible. You're going first typically, so you don't really care about the half damage. If you are having to use this when you're doing half damage, you're doing quite a lot of damage anyway. You're also typically setting up like multiple negate, multiple disruption boards, so you're not too stressed about that. The other like card of variance is Forbidden Droplets. Again, you can change this out for everything else. I just typically use this to play around stuff like Dragoon. Like, I do typically consider this deck to be able to easily play through Dragoon. When you got the droplets, you have the ability to just summon big dragons and then attack over it with a Tintek buff. So Dragoon shouldn't be a massive issue to out. Also, the fact that Hieratic Seals doesn't target is also a way that you can easily play around it. Then we have 1 copy of Duster as another card that is just considered a tech card. I just want to have back row removal in the deck at all times, so we are playing the 1 copy of Duster. For our traps, 3 copies of Tidying. Of course, this card helps you grind. You can use it to summon, you can use it to bounce. Typically, if you go through all of them, it could be a little bit rough for you if you still haven't really asserted control in the game, but normally you will have won by that point. That should be turn 6 or 7 where you're burning out of them, so don't stress too much about running out of your Tidying resources, but also don't throw them down the toilet. Next off, 3 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison in the main deck. Of course, you do want to just be able to toolbox this card out and rip a lot of cards out of a lot of opponents' decks. This will typically be a win condition for most matchups, so Ice Dragon's Prison in the main, definitely what you want to play when you're playing stall, or not necessarily stall. This is like mid-range control. And then after that, 2 copies of Solemn Strike round out my main deck. So Solemn Strike is just probably better than Judgment at the moment, because it can shut down those like monster effects when you just kind of don't care that your opponent summoned something, but you really want to make sure that that effect gets negated. Solemn Strike's just the option that I go with. You can always switch that up for like another trap card, whether or not it's more effective at your locals. That's always an option that's up to you. Okay, next off we have the extra deck in our beautiful NolanTCG sleeves. So starting us off, we will of course have 3 copies of Dragonmaid Shiu. This is your negation that you're going to typically be summoning. It will then access out your extra deck and get you to your house Dragonmaid. So of course we're playing 3 of that as well. Typically you want to, if you're running low on your extra deck resources, you can make do with 1 Shiu 2 house in your extra because you're going to summon the house and put the Shiu back. So if you are forced to burn these cards off of like a prosperity, or maybe obviously you'd probably be going into a second to prosperity at that point, that is something you can do. Of course, just make sure you always have more house than Shiu in your extra deck, otherwise you could be having a bit of a bad time. Don't forget as well that this does summon back, or both cards summon back in the standby phase. I know there's been occasions where I activate the Shiu in standby phase and my opponent attempts to like imperm it or something like that, which would of course turn off like the negation. So you just use the negate the imperm, spin it back for the house. Shiu can then get that reborn off, and then house can also trigger her reborn. So it's always just an extender to keep in mind, where if your opponent maybe gammas the Shiu or anything like that in standby phase, you can always use the effect and switch back into house and then get like that double bit of extension. Next off after that, 3 copies of Heraldic Seal of Heavenly Spheres. You want to end on this on most boards because it snowballs your resources at the same time as interacting with your opponent. Then we get into a bit of our combo, so we're playing 1 Pisty, 1 LP. Of course, summons from deck, summons from grave, likely will be banned on the next list, so Amazement Dragonmaid on the way. Then after that, the 2 cards that you need to be playing in the deck for the full combo, which is 1 Almirage, 1 Crossroads. Crossroads is just something you want to be summoning that gets that downwards pointing arrow that you can really use to your advantage. And then after that, last 2 cards in the extra, 1 copy of Striker Dragon, simply because it's a Link 1 Dark. You can also use Pisty in this situation. And then we have 1 copy of Boral Sword Dragon. Reason why this is a Dark, which is the reason why it's good, is because it can summon out a Nocto when we don't want to burn any valuable resources on the Nocto. So you go into Striker to trigger that off to summon. And then we have the Boral Sword Dragon to push through for big damage and game. Okay, we will go through my current side deck for this one. I do like to go through side deck whenever we're doing like major profiles. So starting us off, this is pretty important. 1 copy of Kawaki Mirror Drago in the side deck. I'll put this in against decks that only play light and dark monsters, because you'll use the bounce from the Heraldic Seal, and then just summon the Kawaki Mirror Drago, and hopefully that's enough to like end your opponent's turn. Of course, they can burn a lot of resources to out it, but that's hopefully just more advantageous to you. It is also a dragon, so it does like turn on your tidying. If they try and like maybe go like summon something else, battle phase attack over it, you can bounce the 2 cards back. Then after that, 3 copies of Droll. This could probably see its way into my main deck with stuff like Drytron coming in more prevalently into the format. Same with Lancia, with stuff like Tri-Brigade. This is just like a turn skip for them in most situations. Hopefully they don't like hard open Revolt and then just like go that way, because it can be a little bit rough. But yeah, 3 copies of Lancia, currently sitting on side deck, can also be considered for my main. 2 copies of Scythe come after that, because I am playing a Sanctum package. 3 Cosmic Cyclone, I would say Galaxy Cyclone. Follow that up because I want to have some extended back row removal in the side. I could consider this for evenly matched at the Remote Duels YCS, just because that's more of a blowout card against Rogue, and that is always a good option to have. And then, rounding out this side deck, 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum to go with our Scythe package. But that wraps up here for the deck profile for this one. So as always, if you have any like recommendations or things you would typically play in Dragonmaids, make sure to comment them down below. Do head over to the affiliate link down in the description below if you are looking at any like custom playmats or possibly custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com. The affiliate link as always will help the channel and get you that bit of a discount. I did say it earlier, I'm just going to repeat it. Always got to repeat it. But yeah, as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon everybody.